Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast is about the journey to a more sustainable future in order for us to be able to do our bit to achieve net zero. I'll be discussing a variety of topics with experts in their field in order to educate and increase our knowledge of clean energy, electric vehicles and the electric vehicle infrastructure. So whether you're an individual wanting to make a difference at home, a small business or a corporate, this podcast is just for you. So, I have got a very special guest today that I'm very excited about talking to, because I've already said to him I could probably talk to him all day about his career. I have Professor Colin Herron CBE on my podcast today. Oh, I'm so excited, Colin. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you ever so much for joining me.
Oh, it's a great pleasure. It was nice meeting down in London, but I'm looking forward to the session. I always enjoy things like this.
Oh, brilliant. And when we met at the EV show, and I just said to you before we started recording, John Curtis from the EV Cafe was on his knees to you, wasn't he?
He's a showman, we'll put it that way. He's a lovely bloke, but yes, I've known him a long time, and I think one of the nice things is he knows I sort of mark what he says when I'm sitting in the audience.
Absolutely. I could see he was honing in on you straight away, wasn't he? He wanted to ask someone a question. But that was brilliant. That was brilliant. Now, I've got such a long list of things that I was researching in this last couple of days about you.
Can we just say I know nothing about this? This has all been sprung on me, so let's see how it goes.
So I started off and I just put, your curriculum vitae is as interesting as the colourful waistcoat that I saw you in, because you wore your trademark, isn't it? It's your trademark, your colourful waistcoat, and people would not miss you in your waistcoat.
Well, I say to two people at conferences, I wear those waistcoats that if they want to find me, it's quite easy. Conversely, if they want to avoid me, it's also quite easy.
I mean, it kind of saves you having to get, like, you know, when you've got like these tour guides, you don't need to have an umbrella with your arm up or anything like that. I suppose the waistcoat does the job for you, doesn't it? Really,
absolutely does.
So, you're currently involved. You're working at you're a professor at Newcastle University. You're currently involved in the regional battery research group at Newcastle University. You've got a background in the automotive trade and mechanical engineering. You were with Nissan for 17 years. Please give me a bit of your story, because this is just. I'm going to stop there and let you start talking. But just tell me about how you got to where you are now.
In a nutshell, I'm a product of Tyneside. You might pick up by the accent. My father was a shipyard worker, and my mother, she didn't work. She was a housewife at home. The old tradition of the man goes out to the shipyards and the woman stays at home.
Yeah. School
was not one of my best periods of time. I was advised it might be a good idea to get a job. So didn't manage A levels, didn't really manage O levels in those days. In the northeast at that time, you went the shipyards, the mines, or industry, or the services. I flirted with the idea of the Navy, and I ended up at a company called George Angus, where they made, ironically, crankshaft seals for internal combustion engines, but I didn't realise the irony of that at the time. When I started there, there was a wonderful chap who looked after the apprentices, and he sent me to the local college. And we used to do things called ordinary nationals and higher nationals in those days. Yeah. But the college said, we don't actually know if this guy's got a brain, so they put me on a sub-course to find out if I could think and do it. They put this thing on, it was called a general engineering course. Yeah, so I did that, then I did the ordinary nationals, which allowed me to go to college. So I went to London, packed my bags, went down to London, and went to what was then known as Central London Poly, which is now Westminster University.
Yeah.
That was in 1977. Why did I go to London? Because I met the lady who's still my wife in 76. Who was going to study at the Middlesex Hospital, right? So I just let fate run. So we went down to London, I studied there, we got married and moved back up here. In 87, Nissan opened in 86, I had been troubled not understanding how bad. I knew something was wrong in the industries I worked in, but I didn't really know what was wrong. So I applied for Nissan and they gave me a job. And I worked in supplier quality for a few years. Then I got put on new model introduction in engineering. And I worked on the first Primera, I worked on Micras, I worked on quite a few cars, which involved a lot of time out in Japan, learning an awful lot about how the Japanese think about things.
Okay.
I was then Nissan. I did a master's degree when I was with Nissan. I did various things, but it got me up to the master's degree. And Nissan seconded me to the Regional Development Agency.
Yeah.
And they said, we want you to go out there and we want you to transfer the manufacturing practices that Nissan do into local industry, because we were hemorrhaging jobs to low-cost countries. And they wanted to make them, regardless of what they made. So I said to Nissan after several years there, is this same terms and conditions? Oh yeah, you go out. If you want to come back, you come back. Same terms and conditions.
Right.
But on the same project, I knew the region had sponsored 6 PhDs separately.
Yeah.
So I went back and I said, if I do this secondment, is there a PhD in it as well? And the guy said, yeah, if you want. So I said, well, can I have 2 seconds to think about this? You're going to offer me a secondment to the local government, a PhD, same terms and conditions. Yes, I'm off. So I went to the Regional Development Agency and we set this up. I completed the PhD. Then the Conservative government closed the Regional Development Agencies. By which time I was head of sort of automotive policy, and I had got heavily involved with the Gordon Brown, Peter Mandelson government. And I was going backwards and forwards to Japan on the negotiations to bring the Nissan Leaf and the battery plant to the UK. It took about 2 years, and we did it. And then the RDAs were dissolved. At which point, I'd also bid for one of the first 3 regional networks for EV infrastructure. Because as I pointed out to government, it would be a bit of an embarrassment if Nissan were building electric vehicles and they came out the gate and there was nowhere to plug them in.
Yeah.
So the penny dropped on that one.
Yeah.
So I transferred the whole team into a college and we created this subsidiary called Zero Carbon Futures.
Yeah. Okay.
After about 10 years, we realized that a college was a nice place to be, but it didn't allow us to grow intellectually or scope because it wasn't a research body and it wasn't an SME. So about just over 2 years ago, Newcastle University adopted us into the university, and I brought me in as a professor of practice. They brought me in because of all this knowledge that I had, and they then asked me to write a sort of resume of where I think this industry is going, electrification, especially batteries, and what the university should do to come to terms with it. So we then realised all of a sudden, Envision announced the 30 gigawatt hour battery plant in Sunderland, and British Volt announced the 30 gigawatt hour plant in Northumberland. So Newcastle University suddenly found itself unique in the world between 2 30 gigawatt hour plants and the biggest car plant in the country going to make electric vehicles, and all the supply chain coming in.
Yeah.
And it wasn't no panic, but Russell Group universities don't move quickly. So we had to question all the curriculum, what we're teaching, and how many people. So we said, well, how many people are going to be employed? Oh, it could be 6, 9, 10,000 people. And they all need these skills, and we need PhDs, and we need masters, and we need to develop a whole supply chain.
Yeah.
So we created the Northeast Battery Alliance, and we got them all together, and that's been running since May. And then I contacted Pam Thomas, who's the chief exec of the Faraday Institution. And I said, I know you're doing a lot of research, but you're based in Harwell. And there's an awful lot happening up here, and it's too far apart. So they decided to open the first regional office of the Faraday Institution, which is me in Newcastle University.
Yeah.
That's about where I am now. So nationally, I work under the Faraday Institution. Locally, I run under the Northeast Battery Alliance, and within the university, I'm in the School of Engineering doing work there. And I'm also desperately trying to retire.
It's not happening, is it really?
It's becoming a struggle because I am officially an old age pensioner and I
Oh,
need to start
stop.
winding down. Eh?
Yeah, but you're not. You're not, are you? You're not. It's just not happening, is it? I mean, just think about the time where you are now.
Look, I've got
People.
my old age pensioners bus pass. It's true.
Oh, bless you. But
So
it's not.
it's
It's
a
just not going to
massively
happen, is
exciting
it?
time at the moment. It's just
Yeah.
absolutely tremendous. So that's where I'm based.
It's probably a point where you might want to retire. Or do you want to retire? Is that what you're saying? Do you want to you do want to retire, or you're kind of saying I should retire, but I don't want to?
Yeah,
Which one are you in there?
that's where you are, and I'm seriously going to try and reduce the hours. And my colleague is going to take over a lot of the battery lines and do all those sort of things. But to be
Yeah.
honest, when you work in a university, I'll get shot for it, but I call the young ones the kids because they are the kids to me. When you're 66, they're all kids. They're so full of enthusiasm, you know. And
That good?
I'm not mentoring. I'm working with a PhD student and two master's students, and they're absolutely buzzing. They want to do this, they want to do that, and we got
Yeah.
students supporting us. And that side of it is keeps my brain going. And there's lots of
Yeah.
other things universities are involved in I didn't realise. You know, there's things at Westminster, there's meeting MPs and what have you. So I don't want to drop that, but to be honest, there's only a certain amount of time that you can contribute. Then you become stale or you become old, and but I'm on that journey.
Doesn't sound like you're ever going to become stale. You might be older, but I don't think from what it sounds to me, you're not. You're not going to be stale, really.
That's the challenge.
But all these things, I mean, zero carbon futures and kind of working with the Mayor of London and Transport for London. There's just, I was absolutely mind blown. But and this is just like, I kind of did about an hour's research on you, and I was just thinking, this man has just got so much knowledge and so much capability, and no wonder people turn to you
Well,
for
no.
information and
Let's clarify something.
go on.
There's always a risk with me because I confront data and the truth head on,
I've seen on
right?
LinkedIn. Good, it's good.
And with regards to the Mayor of London, I before COVID, I used to facilitate a 2-day CPD course on the whole thing to do with electric vehicles. And there was a chap on there who he said he worked for the JLC, but I didn't realise he was sort of an advisor to the mayor. And he came on the
Right.
course and he was on it for the full 2 days. And a little bit later, I got this request. Do we want to bid to facilitate the Mayor of London's EV task force?
God.
Sort of rings warning bells when there's six of you in an office in Sunderland getting asked to do that, and you've got Deloitte, Ernst and Young, and all of them. So we put in a little bid, and they said, "Yeah, you've won." And we still thought,
God. Oh, wait.
"This doesn't make sense." Anyway, we went down, and when we went in the room, there was this chap, Oliver Lord, sitting there, and he said, "To be honest, we've taken a gamble because." They did like the fact that I would facilitate it and I would stretch the task force. Normally, when I'm at, you probably seen there was some people unhappy with me when I was on the panel and walked out, that people don't like to confront the truth. And
Mm,
there's been, in the area of electric vehicles, there has been so much rubbish written and continues
yeah,
to be written. It
yeah,
needs challenged.
yeah.
So
Good for
some
you.
people like yourself say, "Oh, this is great. I'd like to take this further," and other people spot the waistcoat and just go the other way because they don't want to hear it. They would rather live in this.
Bubble.
Well, it's a bubble of confirmation bias. They believe they're heading in the
Mm,
right direction,
mm,
and they don't want to hear anything else which counter it.
mm.
Now, I could be wrong, and I always put on lots of LinkedIn. If you've got data that shows me I'm wrong, let me know, and I'll
So,
apologise.
yeah,
I'll recorrect it.
yeah.
But the number of people who just stop communicating when you do that is quite interesting.
But what kind of people would do that? Those with an agenda, you think?
What worries me is there's some with an agenda, and there's some. We've lost in this country the ability to do critical thinking, right? And it's a slightly different topic, but there was a post went out yesterday which was criticised. This is not a political statement, this is a data statement, criticising the Labour Party because on average white people are paid 9% more than BAME. And that's what they said. And people were putting comments, this is shocking, this is rotten, and I said, hang on. Are they saying the average of the white people versus the average of the BAME is 9% difference, or is it job for job? So if it's job for job, that's a problem. But if you've got the leader, the deputy leader, etc., salaries in that plot, then it's going to skew the average. Now, I spend a lot of time looking at what's said and then thinking, whoa, what does that mean? What's the detail behind that? And it's when you challenge that people don't like, because they would rather live on the story, because the story is what they want to hear, not the fact that that story is just for a headline grab and it's not actually correct. Absolutely. And we see that with numbers of charge points, we see that with battery life, we see that with cobalt, we see all the time. There's the headline and you go, oh, hang on a minute. What about this? And then some people you'll find either come back with some more confirmation bias, and then but they get abusive and you just block them.
Exactly, and you're right. I think there are people hear what they want to hear, don't they? You know, if they're pro, for example, if they're pro EVs, or they're pro renewable energy, for example, or whatever, then of course they're going to be listening and they're going to be open to things. But I was talking to somebody else today about, people don't like change, do they? A lot of people don't like change. And actually, you've got to go over and above. In fact, you've got to go over and above being over and above those things that you're trying to prove in order to actually win them over. But with negative headlines and such. No, exactly, you won't. Until they're doing it.
On the vaccines, on Trump, on various things, it's become almost a faith. You will not change their minds.
No.
Under no circumstances, exactly. You will not change their minds. They've decided. I heard a lady once, she said, President Obama was not an American. I don't care about his birth certificate. I've made my mind up.
Oh, good God.
And when you get to that stage, it's just, well, it's no point in, as somebody said, talking to the donkey. Just stop and just say, okay, you good luck. Off
Carry
you go.
on. Carry on. Fill your boots. Move along.
Yeah.
It's right. It's right. So if we go back to kind of what you're involved in with the Regional Battery Research Group, what is it that you're? I mean, obviously, it kind of says what it does on the tin, but what does that? If you go into a bit of depth, how does it work? What are you actually managing at the moment? Is it reduction or expansion, or what are you looking for?
Right. We'll take the Regional Research Group on batteries now.
Yeah,
batteries are quite an interesting topic because. If we look at the other bit of electrification, which is basically power electronics and motors. So I've said, if I walk into a university and say, where's your power electronics group? They'll go over there. And there they are, they've got all the machines, all the motors, etc. By and large, when you go to the university and you try to find out where the battery group are, that's not so easy. Okay. Because some of them are in the physics department.
Yeah.
Some of them are in chemical engineering. Some of them are in electronics. Some of them. So it's spread. And a lot of people are working on things that they don't realize it's actually batteries. And what we found is with the 5 universities in my region, we've actually tried to map how many people are working on batteries.
Have you?
So we got to. We got to 160 recently, but nobody
Wow.
knows that. All
Oh
right.
my God.
So what you get in the country is like the Premiership
Silos.
football. You've got the
Yeah.
superstars around the
Yeah.
country. Then you've got the rest working away on these subjects. So
Yeah.
what I've
Yeah.
been doing in the region is a stock take of what we're doing. However, this is where the battery lines comes in with the research group.
Mm.
We have to be sure that the research we're doing is complementary to the activity that's happening in the region.
Mm.
So the big thing that the battery companies need is, one, confidence in the cells that they're producing are
Yeah.
good cells. How do we monitor battery packs in life? How do we forecast the end of life? How do we
Okay.
forecast the performance in energy storage? Now, that means I'm working with everything from the artificial intelligence computing group to electronic engineers and people working at molecular level, etc. So it's completely broad spectrum of the
Mm.
research and the work that's going on, which also ties in with the Faraday Institution and with the other national projects. I always remember this. Allan Johnson, who runs the Nissan plant, said to me, if I can't make the cars at net zero and at a profit, I can't make them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Makes sense.
So that's a simple premise. So whether it's the batteries, it's the motors, it's the mining, it's the processing, unless we can demonstrate because of battery passports coming in and legislation and recycling. Therefore, and the other thing is, and this is the timeline, in our region, the two new giga plants are two completely different organizations. So
Right.
Envision are building 5 around the world at the moment simultaneously with a proven chemistry, with customers, with skills. British Volt are trying to build a 30 gigawatt hour plant, which they've never done before, with a product they've never produced before, with a workforce that they don't have.
Mm.
All
Mm.
right? The needs of the two are very different. And at some
Yeah.
point in maybe 10 years' time, the needs will merge into new types of research. But
Yes.
Envision are going to take a chemistry from Japan, China, and make it, whereas British Volt have to produce their own chemistries. So when
Okay.
we're trying to develop through the Faraday Institution, the central people who we know at Warwick and those other universities, Birmingham, Sheffield, Oxford, we've got to develop the chemistries that are going to make the UK world leading in the future, but we've also got to demonstrate and create the science and the manufacturing that will make the industries viable to
Mm.
make the
Mm.
new chemistries. Then we got to make sure that these new chemistries and this manufacturing can be reverse engineered so we can take the critical materials out and put them back into the system.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's occupying me at the moment.
That sounds like you've got your hands full then. Retirement is not an option.
It's going to be difficult.
Resistance is futile. My God. I didn't actually. I suppose I knew about the I knew about the two factories, but I didn't realize about them both, how they're both working.
It's completely
So
different.
and
Yeah.
and I suppose with regards to, I mean, there's been all this kind of again a bit of furore about British Volt. Has that moved? Has that moved on? Because I thought something
You're
had
only
moved
the
on in the
third
last couple of
person
weeks.
so far today to ask me that question. I wish I knew.
Okay, only the third.
I think we'll know this week. One other thing in the region which has made us quite unique is that in Weardale they're going to be mining for lithium, right?
Right.
On Teesside, two of the two huge lithium hydroxide plants have been announced, which are going to produce about 20%, 15-20% of Europe's lithium hydroxide. So within a little box of about 70 kilometers or 40 miles, we're going to mine lithium, process lithium, produce battery cells. Then we've
Oh
got
my
about
God.
4 companies making battery packs. Then we're going to have the biggest car company in the country making up to 500,000 EVs. Then we got Second Life storage, and then we got the recycling industry, which hasn't even been built yet. And we're doing all of this with the catapult system. So the Centre for Process Innovation, that's in the region as well. So all of this has got to be set out in a timeline. And we've got investors want to come in and they want to discuss things. We've got electrolyte manufacturer in the region as well. And it's mapping all of this. This is why we need the battery lines so that we can put the sum of the bits together and work in a coordinated way.
So at the moment, so all these how many hundreds did you say? How many people across the different universities are working
On
on it?
batteries, we
Yeah.
haven't even got to the research assistants and people who are doing postgraduate research. We've got about 160. We'll probably get up to about 180, 200 people working on batteries in some format.
So pulling those all together, I mean, like you said, they're all researching different elements because there's such complexity in this, isn't there?
Yep.
Is there a way to pull them? Are they meeting? Do they now know who each other is? Do you know what I mean? Are they now having meetings?
They are.
Like, oh, you're doing
We
this.
we
Oh,
have
I'm doing that.
we have representatives from each university meet on a monthly basis to discuss these topics.
Yeah.
And academics up here work with academics in Birmingham and all the other areas. But there's one challenge that we always have in the academic world is for some academics the goal is to win a Nobel Prize.
Okay.
Yep. So they're the superstars who the universities want because they get the papers, the ref, and the whole lot. They
Yeah,
will
yeah,
plough on regardless.
yeah,
And if it means leaving Newcastle to go to Oxford or Oxford to go to the suburb, wherever it is, they will move around and do their work because that's the way they're driven. Other
yeah,
researchers are quite happy to do lecturing and research where they're based, and that's what they want to do. So within a university, you have to work with two different groups of academics as well.
yeah.
And you've also
I'm
got to
married to
create.
one. I'm married
Are
to
you?
an academic. So yeah, I know what you mean.
Uh,
Yeah.
so you know that score, and you've also got to have like Sheffield did with the EMRC. You've got to have staff sometimes which are not in the university, who are academically qualified, but they work outside of the universities.
Okay. I know it's not an easy thing, and so my husband works for Reading University in the meteorology department. So he's a professor of climate science.
Yep.
So I kind of know some of the challenges that
Yeah.
that go on. It sometimes feels a bit to me like we're herding cats, pulling people together and getting, But yeah, like you say, there are the rising stars. I mean, he's worked at Reading for. We moved to Reading in 2004. So he's kind of been working in the university kind of since then, really. So he's
Yeah.
been there for
But
quite a
some
long
of them
time.
are
But
on their fifth and sixth universities to
yeah,
move up
yeah,
the esteem ladder, and
yeah,
they do that.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, so how many unis in the country specialise in battery technology? Then did you say it's about five?
No, that's 5 up here.
Oh God! Oh yeah, you said local, didn't you?
Oh
Okay, so
yeah,
so in
5.
the country, how many
The
universities are actually
Faraday
specialising
Institution's
in?
working with about 27 at the moment.
What? My God! I suppose you need it,
Southampton,
don't
well,
you?
just Southampton, Oxford, Cambridge, Imperial,
Yeah.
UCL, Birmingham, Strathclyde, Edinburgh,
You, I
Newcastle.
mean,
So you start to look at the whole list that they're working with. Don't
yeah,
forget,
and
we're trying to transition. Because I wrote the numbers down yesterday. It's worldwide, just cars,
yeah.
1.5 billion.
What?
1.5
E-
billion cars
EVs?
have got to turn to EV. The
Yeah,
UK,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
3.3 million.
Oh my
No,
God.
33 million cars in the
33
UK
million.
alone.
And by when? By 2030?
No, 2030, you can have
Is
they've
that
got to
the
have a substantial zero emission range. After 2035, no internal combustion engine cars or vans will be sold.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
But when
now it's 23. The UK needs 90 gigawatt hours of battery capacity.
right.
We currently have operating 1.7.
Oh my God.
1.7 out of 90.
Wow.
If British Volt kicks in and Envision do what they say, we're still 30 gigawatt hours short
Yeah.
just for the car industry.
So how right, okay, so if that's the case, if we're 30 gigs short, what are our options then?
We need not only British Volt, we need a third 30
Plan.
gigawatt hour plant. But the National Grid also want about 13 gigawatts for storage. And I've seen today that Hitachi are announcing they're going to make battery trains. And we've
Right.
got the bus industry and the truck industry,
Yeah. Yeah.
home
This is
storage.
massive. This is just it's going to be such a massive industry, isn't it?
So one of my
Really
other
is.
jobs is trying to get through to Her Majesty's government how big
Okay.
this is, and if we don't do it, how expensive it will be to buy these things if we don't
From
make them.
everything. Yeah. So what countries at the moment then are at the level that they should be? Are there any countries anywhere that are kind of are at the level where they should be?
Then
Or
nobody's at the level they should be, but where they are is, Germany and others are laying down lots and lots of battery plants. But one of
yeah,
a serious challenge we have is that you can have a battery plant by having a wonderful site and getting a large corporate battery manufacturer like Panasonic, Cattle, and LG, who will come and build the factory and produce millions of cells.
yeah,
That will be of great impact to that local community where that
it
happens.
will. Yeah,
But for UK PLC, they will use their own chemistries, their own research, their own development. So all we as a country will probably be supplying is manufacturing staff, some managers, and some MBA training and some etc. But it'll not be of the maximum value that we could get from it.
I get you.
So we
Yeah,
need the Envisions, we need everybody. But as Sweden's found out with Northvolt, they're now developing chemistries, recycling, they've got their own research centre. And the challenge for the UK at the moment is, do we want that, or do we just allow other people to make them and we effectively buy them?
what are your thoughts? I'm assuming.
If I could understand what's in the heads of people in the Treasury and the Cabinet Office, I would have an opinion. The challenge is always, when you work with the Treasury, is the Treasury are very interested, like any housekeeper, how much money's coming in, how much is going out.
Going out. Yeah,
If somebody comes and puts up a factory and spends the money and employs people, that's an easy calculation of income. If you say, but if you invest in this and then they do this and then in 10 years' time we've got this, that's a long horizon which doesn't pay the bills next year.
no,
So there's always a discussion in government between long-term investment and political aspiration and what we need versus short-term income to pay for the National Health Service and things like that. So
yeah,
I understand the difficulties where it is. Coming from my point of view, I would love to see a British battery company employing and working and developing the research in this country and then exporting it and opening factories around the world like we used to have with ICI and other industries. But what I have to do is to help the universities in this region and business and work nationally to accommodate whatever happens, because I can't influence it.
No, no, like you say, because other people are in control, aren't they? So
Yeah,
there's only
absolutely.
you have your own limitations, even though you can try and influence what you can try and influence, but
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
kind of limited by what they want, isn't it?
yes, I'm writing things now which we're going to hopefully put in to try and influence government to suggest it'd be rather a good idea to do this, but they may decide, because you can't get away from the political aspiration as well.
Yeah,
What's
no,
the political desires of decisions? So you know, for a fact you're going to have people making political decisions. You're going to have Treasury making financial decisions.
mm, you have to wait and just see what they come back with first.
Correct.
Do you know? I want to talk about your CBE, if you'd be happy to talk about that. So you
Hmm.
received a CBE for services to business and renewable energy. I mean, what an amazing achievement that was. When was it? Is it? I can't remember what year it was.
I went to the palace in November 2018, and I
Yeah,
found out. I think it was in the June or the July. You find out, but you got to keep it quiet, which is quite
right.
difficult,
I bet that's
especially
hard.
when an
Yeah, I
envelope
was
comes
going to
through the
say.
door, basically saying to the postman, "You must post this," and it's got a cabinet office on, and it's got high confidential, and it's got the postcode SW1A1AA on. So my wife got it, and
Mm.
she said, "It was lovely." She said, "What have you done this time?" She thought I
What
was
does
in
that mean?
trouble.
You don't get yourself into trouble.
And it was funny because I read it, and at the bottom I said, "Oh, said I've been appointed an OBE," and she said, "Really?" And then the second document at the top it had CBE, and I went back, and
Right.
my brain had missed the word commander, and I
Yeah.
just read ordinary. So I said, "Oh, crikey, I've got a CBE," and then we. My youngest daughter was living in Paris at the time. She came over on the Eurostar, and my eldest daughter, we went down on the train. And it was lovely because the London Electric Vehicle Company, I knew Richard Turnbull, who was working there. And I said,
Yeah.
"Richard, wouldn't it be a good idea if I turned up in an electric taxi?" And he said, "We'll sort that for you." So
Yeah.
we turned up in the electric taxi. We
Oh,
had photographs in the electric taxi. And he was allowed to park
I
in the
saw
palace
that.
as well. That was really good. So we
No,
did that as
was
well.
he?
Yeah.
Oh, do you know, I've actually been to the LEVC plant and it's
Yeah, I have.
absolutely spotless, isn't it? It is just
Yeah.
spotless and just, yeah. That, in fact, that was probably, when was that? So that, for me, that would have been in 2019 I went there.
Yeah.
So I first started kind of looking at electric vehicles. And then when I kind of went to work, I did some work in London as well. And obviously seeing the LEVC taxis going around London, I was like, oh, I've seen those being manufactured because
Yeah.
I'm also I'm an endpoint assessor for apprenticeships. So for continuous improvement, and LEVC were it was the very first company I did my endpoint as kind of run. So I'm an endpoint assessor is basically an examiner for
Yeah.
apprenticeships. So I went up to the LEVC factory, but yeah, very nice. I do like that factory. So it's brilliant that you went in the
I did
taxi
have
as well.
my only bit of fun with it was it was on the Friday and I had to come back on the Sun. Anyway, I had to fly to New Zealand on the Monday, so
Oh
I
my
flew to
God.
New Zealand on the Monday, and there was the taxi driver met me for this conference, and he said, "Ah,"
Yeah.
he said, "I've never had a CBE in the car before." He said, "Where have you come from?" I said, "Direct from the palace." That was my James Bond
Oh,
bit. I said, "I've just come
yeah,
straight from the
you have your dicky
palace."
bow on and everything. Yeah, hey, there you go, Miss Moneypenny. Oh, this is fantastic. Honestly, we've only just scratched the surface with what you've done, haven't we? I know that there's so much. Even if you do want to retire, your background is just this. Like I say, there's this just long plethora of information that I was reading. It was just amazing. So if you'd be happy,
Don't
I'd love
forget,
to have
don't
you
forget,
on.
I've been working with some absolutely fabulous people. So to say and ever that I've done all of this is an injustice to lots of people
I get you.
who
Of course.
who deal with the detail. And my good colleague Lois Warren, who I deal with, she just says I'm like an icebreaker. I just plough through the ice, and the damage that's caused behind, she always has to mop up.
Oh, hey,
And
but
if it
you've
wasn't
got,
for her attention to detail and her planning, we wouldn't achieve anything near what I've managed to do. I'm very good at the lateral thinking and being out in the front, creating havoc and getting things done. But when it comes to the detail, I'm not the best. Hence why I was a failure at school.
now, come on, you weren't, you did, you said you were, you didn't say you were a failure at school, and I'm sure you
Oh, I
weren't,
was.
but
I was.
everybody kind of, not everybody enjoys school. I didn't particularly enjoy school. It's not, like you said, it's not always everybody's fun time, is it,
I
really?
always
And
work out when the
you live
headmaster
your life.
suggests you leave school and get a job, and A levels are
That's
not for
so
you.
rude.
That things are not working.
That's so rude. Oh
He
my
was
God.
honest. It was
I'm
true.
assuming that head. Yeah, but they used to say things like that, didn't
But
they?
he was telling the truth. I managed
Oh,
5 dodgy O levels. The highest was grade 3, and he suggested I went and got an apprenticeship. It was the best thing I ever did. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be talking to you.
bless you. So did you actually start your working life as an apprentice then?
Yeah, apprentice toolmaker.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about when I said that I've been involved in apprenticeships as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, I did an
yeah.
IETB full skills apprenticeship. Yeah, and worked on the machine tools. And then I was sent away to do a higher national diploma in London. And then I
Yeah,
went through the Open
that's what you.
University, ended up with a master's at the
Yeah,
Open
yeah, yeah.
University, then did a part-time PhD with Newcastle.
It's I think, yeah. I mean, obviously, there's lots of people who go straight from school, from doing A levels straight into university, don't they? But and I always talk about my son. My son's doing his A levels currently.
Mm.
And he's 17, and but not everybody is right for university at that age, at kind of 18, are they? Do you know what I mean? I just think people kind of they grow in very different ways, and I must admit, I was very similar to you. I kind of, obviously haven't got a PhD. I can't say that, but I kind of left school. I did have O levels because I'm that age as well. But actually, I've done a lot of kind of a lot of qualifications since then.
Mm.
Like I say, I've not sat and studied a PhD, but I've done this later in life, and I'm happy with
Some
what
people say
I'm
to
happy.
me, you must be clever. And I say, if I was clever, I would have done it at school. I would have done it the easy way.
It's not the easy way when you're older. How old were you then when you started your PhD?
44.
So you're
44.
not that's not the easy way, is it? Doing it when you're 44.
That's what I'm saying. If I was clever, I would have done it the easy way.
Oh right, I get you. Sorry. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
get you now.
yeah. I graduated in 2006. That was 20. Yeah, 2006. Yeah, 16,
You're
17 years
checking on your
ago.
calendar.
No, I'm looking at my certificate. It's on the wall.
Oh, is it? Oh my goodness. See,
And
just
sorry, if there's a funny noise at the moment, that's because the window cleaner's just turned up outside and he's cleaning the window.
Oh, don't worry. If there's a funny noise at this end as well, it's because I've got somebody refurbing my bathroom. So, so don't worry. Don't worry. I thought it's
I set myself 2 milestones. One was to get a PhD before I was 50, and then I set the second one, which was to run a marathon before I was 60. I did both the year I was 50, the other one the year I was
get
60.
out of town. You've run a marathon, have
I did
you?
it for my 60th
What?
birthday.
Oh my God! What in kind of in the northeast or as
No,
down here?
Belfast.
Where did you? Did
Belfast.
you? Oh my
Yeah, because my
God!
son-in-law's from Lisbon. So we
Right.
decided we train and run the Belfast Marathon together.
You're just such an eye opener. Honestly, what a breath of fresh air talking to you. My goodness me, you can't
My hobby's
retire.
swimming
You're
and
not
running.
allowed. Hey,
I like me hobbies are swimming and running.
but you must have a little bit of time for them then somewhere. You
Well,
squeeze it in, don't you?
yeah, the fortunate thing is the sea's only 10 minutes walk away, so we tend to go down there early if we go down there in the morning, and running I have to make time for.
Right. Can you tell me? Do you do that? What do you call it? That scary swimming in cold seas in the winter then?
hmm
Do you? Oh,
hmm
oh, it's giving me blooming goose pimples just thinking of it.
The sea's 8 at the moment, it's all right.
Okay. You said when are you going to go when it's like you didn't go when it was -6 earlier, like before Christmas,
No,
did
no,
you?
I was in on Christmas Day, and I was in the day before New Year, but then I got this chest problem, which I'm just coming out of. So we were looking at the
Right.
sun this morning, so if we need to get one in this week. My wife's been in last week, she went down. But it's 0 when you get out. That's the problem. It's actually colder outside the water than in.
Right.
And you got
Oh,
to
I
do it
just
Geordie style. No wetsuits. No
Oh
wetsuits.
God. Oh, if Paul Kirby's watching this, I saw him or listening to this, I saw him I think his was on, I don't know whether you saw it, on around Christmas, and maybe it was New Year's Day, and he went in a wetsuit, but he was with these very young, sprightly young men. I'm not saying, Paul,
Yeah.
if you're listening, I'm not saying you're not sprightly, but it kind of they just had their kind of swimming shorts on, and he kind of went in, and I was
Well,
like, I wouldn't have even gone in.
I'll tell you one thing. 85 to 90% of all the swimmers are women.
Oh, right, okay.
Seriously. If I go
Oh,
down there tomorrow morning, there'll be at least 30 going down there swimming. I
oh
bet
my God.
25 will be women.
Oh my God. Do you know what? I'm getting hypothermia just thinking about it, honestly. Blooming heck.
My neighbour goes in every day. I mean, every day. If
I
it's been
suppose
snowing this morning, he'll have been down this morning.
if you're only 10 minutes walk away, then it makes sense, doesn't it?
There's a coffee shop 2 minutes from the beach as well, where everybody piles in their wet robes, and the steam on the windows is fabulous.
Oh my goodness. Listen, do you know what? I'm gonna finish off by just asking you if people want to find you, is the best place LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's the only social media I do. The rest of it's too toxic. If they want, they can just. Honestly, it is. Twitter and stuff like that. It's just full of loonies. I mean, there's a lot of loonies on LinkedIn, but not as many. If anybody wants to correspond or chat or whatever, yeah, just through LinkedIn's the easiest way.
And you're kind of you put quite a lot of posts, like you said, about data and things like that. So
I
yeah, people.
I tend to do things on data regardless of the subject. If I see somebody putting misleading data out about health or anything, I'll say,
Yeah,
just a minute, that's not what the data's saying.
good for you. Good for you. Right. Okay. Well, look, I will put as many links for you for kind of the Faraday Institute, for Zero Carbon Futures, and all
I
of the
might be sacked
websites that
after
you're kind
this,
of
and there's no
involved
point in contacting me ever more.
in. I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not going to be.
I
Oh
don't
my
mind, I've got
goodness.
my bus pass.
Oh, you're an absolute star. It has been such a pleasure. I'll be laughing for the rest of the afternoon now. I really, really appreciate your time, Colin. I can't wait to meet you again at some point. I'm
I tell
sure
you,
we'll
if
be.
anybody's listening for the last couple of seconds, the one thing that keeps me on the ground is on a Sunday morning for the last 13 years, I work at a soup kitchen, and
Do
I
you?
meet. Oh, yeah, I was there yesterday morning. That's get up bright and early to go there.
Yeah.
And the people come in there on a Sunday morning with a rucksack on, who've slept in somewhere all night. And as they come
Yeah.
in, I'll say to them, "You're all right?" "Oh, aye, no problem." They always say, "Aye, not a problem. Go and get where it's warm." "Aye, champion. Thanks very much," and off they go. None of them ever open the door, and give me a full-on whinge about their life or the government or
Mm,
anything. They just say, "I
mm.
am all right."
Oh
I
my
always find
goodness.
that stunning.
Absolutely.
Even if they've got a black eye and they've been attacked in the night or whatever, they'll just, you all right? All right, champion. And in they go. That always amazes me because they work on the assumption it can't get any worse.
No. Oh, bless you. You're an absolute star, honestly. God, as and when you retire, I can imagine all of the wonderful I can imagine that the wonderful stuff that you're doing now is not going to stop. It'll just be different to what you're currently doing, won't it?
Aye.
Somebody like you is never going to stop, are you? So I can imagine you're going to give in different, very, very different ways.
My one objective is not to be in the queue on the Sunday morning.
Very true. Very true. Listen, Colin, on that note, I'm going to say I really appreciate your time. Thank you
Pleasure.
for talking to me. It's been brilliant. And to everybody else, I'm sure you'll have absolutely loved listening or watching, whichever way you're doing it. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for your time, and I shall see you next time. See you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye. You've been watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon and you'll receive all of our weekly videos. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.